What is the full form of UNICEF?
So it's the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund, as it existed before, but currently it's revised to United Nations Children's Fund, but they've retained their previous acronym.
Okay. So why is UNICEF concerned with iodine deficiency?
So the belief is that iodine deficiency will impact children's development and growth. Iodine being one of the micronutrients required for the body. In fact, this may play out in terms of its the production of thyroxine, which is responsible for growth and development. There's a very specific developmental disease called cretinism, which specifically impacts children in the young age.
So what are the other deficiencies that children who are living especially in backward regions?
So there are two major types of micronutrient deficiencies, which is classified into kwashiorkor and marasmus. These are they come into the spectrum of nutrient, protein, energy malnutrition. One of them is because of protein deficiency, especially because the people in rural areas cannot afford protein, given the expensive nature of poultry and eggs, etc. The other is calorie deficit, which is even more serious because they cannot they will not get the requisite nourishment.
So do we still have instances of kwashiorkor and marasmus?
Yes, sir. Even as lately as 2023, in some tribes in Madhya Pradesh, we have seen, such as the Saharia Pahariyas, cases of malnutrition through kwashiorkor.
Okay, in the recent hunger indices or hunger index, the India is still ranked very low. So why is that? So is it something wrong with the report, or because the government has denied that the ranking is unjust? It doesn't reflect the reality.
Yes, sir. I believe there are some elements within the construction of this framework and this ranking which are open to criticism. Foremost, this is secondary data that they rely on. It is not their primary data that they've collected. They also conduct a survey or a questionnaire to ask if sufficient nutrient has been produced. This questionnaire the incorrect responses may be filled by those who are responding to this questionnaire. Secondly, I believe there are some countries such as Bangladesh or even Palestine who are ranked above us, which would make it incredulous to us to understand how countries which are destitute and who are facing greater levels of poverty are ranked above us. So there are elements to this ranking which are incorrect.
Okay. So let us assume that you are the district collector of a district. So where we have the issue of hunger and malnutrition, undernutrition. So how are you going to address that?
Sir, I intend to prioritize and target children especially in certain sectors. There are those migrants who come in from far-flung areas. They work in construction areas. Targeting these and especially the children there will be serviceable. Secondly, sir, at the level of the midday meal scheme, which currently is called Poshan Abhiyan in schools, ensuring that the portion meals are also appropriately given will also improve hunger. And on another level, sir, similar to the schemes that have been conducted in Kerala, such as Operation Sulaimani, we can round up the meals which are left unused at the end of the day in restaurants and feed the poor, let's say in slum dwelling areas or the other units.
Don't you think there is some ethical concern here? I mean, feeding the poor, the left out food, even if it is healthy and still,
Yes, sir. Sir, there is it's called, there's a risk associated with this, sir. I'm not able to remember the name, but they say it's a moral hazard. But I do not believe that this is a moral hazard, sir. The values imprinted in our constitution, as well as the socialist scheme that we currently propagate. Article 42 of the constitution compels us to help those in need and to service the ones who are currently in a difficult state. And besides, sir, there are multiple reports, such as the ones in Oxford and so on, which have said that poverty cannot be attributed to merely their own efforts. There could be a historical element to it, and in order to correct these historical inaccuracies, historical injustices, we must help those who are in need.
So with respect to poverty, we have adopted something called welfare state. So I think, which article in the constitution?
So I believe it's Article 37, sir. As a DPSP, 38, sorry, sir.
Okay. So what is the meaning of this welfare state, and also what is the difference between welfare and well-being?
So I believe that a welfare state would include elements of servicing the underserviced and having an inclusive open society with respect to caring for the discriminated and the underprivileged. Well-being, sir, if I may use the health parlance, would imply not just adequate amounts to be provided, but beyond that as well, to ensure the mental well-being too of the individuals.
But don't you think we are stuck in welfareism? The well-being of an individual. So that is not still the major discourse or even a policy concern.
So I believe as of 2023, all the reports and indices suggest that India is yet to uplift about 20 crore people in the bottom indices, and therefore well-being is not a concern till the last person does not go to bed hungry or has a roof over their heads. Maybe perhaps then we can shift towards well-being from welfare.
But there is a parallel phenomenon that is happening, that is increasing mental health crisis, right? So more number, 1,70,000 people committed suicide in 2022. So should we be ignoring this aspect till, as you said, till the last person who is hungry is given adequate food?
So, if I may respectfully walk back my previous opinion, in light of the recent information as well as the way it was delivered, so I would like to correct my previous stand. I believe that well-being will have to be parallelly addressed with welfare, but my opinion was in the light of saying that aspects of well-being, such as perhaps the government sponsoring leisure activities, may not be seen, but mental well-being must be prioritized as well.
So what are the reasons for increasing instances of suicides, not just among the youth and students, but we are seeing across age groups?
So there has been a crisis of sorts in the values that have been propagated across times. It has been noted, sir, by prominent writers that the current generation, while moving towards materialism and shying away from spiritualism, always find that their lives are inadequate or incomplete. I believe this may be the overarching reason as to why multiple people across spectrum of ages and genders may suffer from this disability. However, sir, there are very specific causes, for instance, in women who are being at very young age forced into marriages that they will not want, or children who feel insecure because they are bullied in school, or even in older age where people are unemployed and they commit suicide. These may be the other causes across the years.
But this problem, the problem of suicide is seen mainly from the perspective of mental health crisis. So does it have other factors? Should we be having some holistic approach in preventing suicides?
Yes, I believe the holism in suicidal prevention and care is foremost. I also think that NIMHANS recently has a scheme which focuses on not just the mental aspect of it, but also ensuring the socio-cultural aspects, such as ensuring that the individuals are employed and and rehabilitating and aiding in that cause. So there are elements that we must seek out.
Okay. Can you give me 3 reasons why currently out of 27 countries, so 7 countries in Europe have far-right governments or direct participation of far-right parties?
So I believe in countries such as Italy, France and Germany, there has been a right-wing resurgence in the political spectrum. This is largely because the nationalistic ideas have been propagated again due to an influx of migrants primarily. Secondly, because of decreasing socioeconomic conditions, and that has led to a resurgence. And lastly, because of anti-incumbency, the left has held sway for a very long run, and now the right is pushing itself to the forefront, sir.
Apart from this, any other reasons?
So I'm not able to recall any others at the moment, sir.
So the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and the resurgence of far-right groups. So is there any relationship between these two phenomena?
So I do believe that some of the far right in these countries in Europe would prefer Russia occupying Ukraine and not being part of this ordeal. so that they can secure their own national interests, so much so that they do not have to suffer from increase in oil prices or gas prices, electricity prices, which is an outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war at the moment.
So can you analyze ongoing these geopolitical crisis in the global context? Things happening in Middle East, Central Asia, Russia and Ukraine. Are they linked with any other global events, global phenomena currently happening, or are they isolated events?
So, given the globalized nature of the world, we find that none of them work in isolation and they are fully interconnected. For instance, the Israel-Palestine war has the involvement of Hamas, but not just them, but they include Turkey, as far as Turkey and even Iran. Recently, sir, there was a destabilization in Syria, which Israel took the blame for, or it said that it was responsible for. And this shows that this is an interconnected world. But for the reasons as to why these phenomena have become more in the recent years, it can also partly be attributed to climate change and a lack of resources that is triggering inequity within certain regions, and that is fomenting political crisis, which plays out in the form of factionalism and a disruption in globalization.
So where do you see India's role in it? So we aspire to become Vishwaguru. On the other hand, it looks like we don't have any say or any control with respect to these events taking place around the world. So are we just daydreaming about becoming Vishwaguru, or are we really going to have certain say in this?
So India has retained its right to maintain a strategic silence in some arenas, as well as it wishes to force its opinion in others. For instance, within the Palestine crisis, India in the United Nations General Assembly moved took part in the debate and seconded the resolution that the issues must cease and that Israel's continued occupation of that land must be returned. On the other hand, sir, because there are some economic realities that we have to marry, India has chosen not to participate in the Russia-Ukraine debate and has maintained a muted stand. This is in convergence with India's strategic national security.
India offered Russia, it would help in negotiating peace or something.
Yes, sir. We have also spoken through the Ministry of External Affairs that should there be an opportunity for Russia and Ukraine to meet eye to eye, India can be the intermediary and India can play the Vishwaguru in that sense.
So recently when Trump won the election, so he's been, electing people for his cabinet and various roles. So we see some of the prominent, Indian Americans, so getting into very important, crucial positions. On the other hand, some of the big tech companies, their CEOs are Indians, and they're doing great. And also the wealthiest Americans today are, Indians living in America. But we don't see similar thing happening within the country. So can you explain this?
So if I may try to explain this from a structural perspective, the individuals who are appointed by the president should only have to then be moved forward in the House of the Senate. That is, the appointment process exists in the US, but in India, if they are to attain such high positions, they must be elected. And it's a popular democracy, ours. So we have to necessarily give our oath of approval to individuals. So therefore, we may not see as many aspirants from business community or as CEOs who may be able to push this political button from the people. And also, sir, the likes of Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, etc. in Trump's cabinet is perhaps not as much of a contrast to India's own. In the past, there were individuals, even if they did not occupy ministerial capacities, as MPs, they have lent their weight to deliberations in the parliament. And even now, the Niti Aayog, which scripts policy, continues to seek their advice.
So to ask the same question other way around, if they had stayed back within India, if the parents, these individuals, do you think they would have reached, this kind of stature and position in whichever fields they have chosen?
So I do believe that they went with the wind and caught the sails and ensured that while America was rising, they could make use of the opportunity. Having said that, India is currently at 6.5% in greater, the only economy that is showing this much promise. So had they continued to remain back, I believe they would have reached similar heights.
Do you think there's more freedom in America compared to India to pursue one's interest, to become what they dream?
So I do believe that both countries are, they have liberty, equality cemented within the constitution, and therefore they are equally open towards aspiration.
Which kind of society you would prefer? A society where there is inequality but more freedom, and there is another society where there is less freedom but more equality. Which system you would prefer to live in?
So I believe both are equally harmful, but if I have to make a choice, it would be the latter. I would prefer to live in Gandhian utopia than in a world with greater inequality.
But don't you think inequality can be addressed if there is more freedom?
So there are some political thinkers who are of the opinion that power tends to concentrate. So I believe that as soon as inequality continues to concentrate the way it does, the freedom of those at the lower rungs of the ladders and in the lower strata may be curtailed further.
But you may have economic prosperity, equality, but if you don't have freedom to enjoy what you are reaping, so what is the point?
So I believe the two elements must be married together. There must be a balance, but I would still think that in an equal world, freedom will definitely be there as an analog.
What is quantum computing?
So in opposition to current computing, which uses transistors in 1 and 0 state, quantum computing is a newer mechanism where the qubits are used, where it can exist in 1, 0, or in both the states, or in between.
What is this qubit? Is it a material or is it a...
It is a concept, sir, that it is a physical entity, but which can potentially have different energy levels.
What is this physical entity? Which mineral, which element?
So I'm not aware of the current composition, but semiconductors will form the basis. So I believe it is silicon, germanium, beryllium, etc., which will make the basis for this.
What about quantum computing and artificial intelligence? If they come together, what are the possibilities?
So I believe the possibilities are endless. I believe we can seek improvements in education, in medical healthcare, even in administration, in terms of how...
So with respect to medical and healthcare, can you tell me what are the possibilities? Specific things.
So Google currently has a device called an AlphaFold, which is trying to engineer newer proteins. And with newer proteins, we may find newer ways of fighting diseases. Our genetic code is already quite well delineated, but we are yet to understand how these proteins work in interaction with each other. So I believe a good number of cancers, even chronic illnesses such as hypothyroidism, diabetes mellitus, blood pressure, all of these can be curtailed with such advances.
What about pharmaceutical industry? What are the implications for the pharmaceuticals?
So currently we are facing a crisis of antimicrobial resistance. This is especially going to aid that in terms of beating the microbes and pathogens.
Okay. So let us assume that we already have a system where we are using quantum computers and artificial intelligence. If in these times pandemic had to happen, like hypothetically, so how differently we would have handled it?
So I believe that the need for a lockdown could have been obviated, in that I believe that the vaccines could have been produced almost within a day or so. Production would have been instantaneous. Its movement across and its transfer to other countries would also be instantaneous, and we would not have suffered as many deaths as we did.
So we should be optimistic about the future. So when we start using these two together, or maybe something new might also come up. Should we be more optimistic, or should we be worried that there are terrorists, there are dictatorial regimes, in whose hands, if these technologies fall in, it might result in something else?
So it is a common saying that it's always the wielder of the item who determines what the purpose is. And in that context, I would say that as many fears there are, I believe that the promises are much more. So in fear of peril, we should not take our eyes away from the promise of technology.
Can you name the individual who won Nobel Prize for Literature this year?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recall at the moment.
Previous year?
It was Gurna, sir. He was of Ethiopian origin.
Okay. Can you name any 2-3 works where doctors have authored a prominent works, whether in India or outside India, in literature?
So I'm not able to recall the titles at the moment, but there is a current tendency in medical literature in order to humorously bring out the elements of day-to-day cases that they see. And in that style, there are 2-3 different authors in the USA and one in India who've written books, sir.
Heard of the name Siddharth Mukherjee?
Yes, sir, I do. I have heard of him.
Can you tell?
So he's written a book on the gene, and he reconceptualizes the gene in a different way and makes us understand the biology of it.
Before that, there was another book written by him. I think Emperor of Maladies or something.
Yes, sir. The Emperor of Maladies is a book that was written about cancer, and he again goes into the depths of how cancer is not only biologically but also sociologically and culturally. It leaves an imprint on the families and individuals.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, tell me.
I think the questions this time today were very much more difficult, sir. So, trying to work around them was challenging.
So, yeah, like I just wanted to check, a few diverse things, geopolitics and technology, medical, social aspects, certain things, ಆ ಥರ. So, what I felt genuinely ಅಂತಂದರೆ you are playing safe ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ನನಗೆ, kind of little bit defensive ಅಂತ. It didn't come across as intended to engage me. It was like I'm giving an answer and looking forward to another question, not for striking a conversation around that particular topic. So I think that you need to change. Right? It's okay. Sometimes it's okay to say some wrong things, but today I read in the Hindu, D.P. Agarwal, former UPSC chairman, in one of the talks, he said that we are looking forward to have a healthy conversation on policies, on important current affairs. Right? It is not question and answer. So, you being intelligent fellow, like who has read so many things, right? ಈ ಥರ ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಬೇಡ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಡಿಫೆನ್ಸಿವ್. ಗೋ ವಿತ್ ಎ ಫ್ರೀ ವಿಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಟೈಪ್. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಅಗೇನ್ ಐ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಟು ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಡ್, ಎಲಾಬ್ರೇಟ್, ಟು ಮಚ್ ಟೈಮ್ ತಗೊಳ್ದಂಗೆ ವಿತಿನ್ 40-50 seconds ಆರ್ ವಿತಿನ್ 1 minute ಒಂದು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹೇಳೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಐ ಫೆಲ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ 1 point ಹೇಳೋದು, 2 point ಹೇಳೋದು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಅಂತ. ಇಟ್ ಡಿಂಟ್ ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ರಿಟನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ 2 to 3 question ಕುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಿನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಮೋರ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಫ್ಯೂ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂನಲ್ಲಿ, ಸೊ ಟೇಕ್ ಯುವರ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಟು ಆನ್ಸರ್. ಈಗ ಚೇರ್ಮನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಲುಕಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್. ಅವ್ರ ಮೈಂಡ್ಸೆಟ್ ಹಂಗಿರ್ತದೆ ಕೂತಾಗ. ನಾವೇನೋ ಓದಾಗ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅವರ್ ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ವಿ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಟು ಕಾನ್ಷಿಯಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸಮ್ವೇರ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮೈಂಡ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಏನೋ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಫಿಯರ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ. ಸೊ ವಿ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ಇಟ್ ಸೇಫ್ ಅಂತಂದು. ನಾವು ಅನ್ಅಸ್ಯೂಮಿಂಗ್, ರೈಟ್, ಏನು ಇಲ್ದಂಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ದಿ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್. First question, even if it is a totally factual question, right? Let us say that which part of Bangalore you come from, right? So instead of just saying Malleshwaram or Basangudi, can you add a few more things, right? So just few more details, right? Like 30-40 seconds ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಏನು ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಐ ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಮಲ್ಲೇಶ್ವರಂ ಸರ್, ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ, ಸೊ ಮೈ ನೇಮ್ ದಿಸ್, ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ದಿಸ್, ಐ ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್. ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ರು ಹಾಬೀಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಅದು ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಸಡನ್ಲಿ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಫೀಲ್ ದಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬ್ಲೂ, ನ್ಯೂ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇಂಟೆಂಡೆಡ್ ಟು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ವೇ ದಟ್ ದಟ್ ಇವೋಕ್ಸ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಯು, ಇನ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಆ ಥರ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕೋಗಲ್ಲ. ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಒನ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಒನ್ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್, ವಿ ಫರ್ಗೆಟ್ ಅದರ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಹಂಗಿರಬಾರ್ದು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಆನ್ಸರು ಸರಿನೇ ಹೇಳಿರೋದು, ಯಾವ ಆನ್ಸರು ತಪ್ಪಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇವಾಗ ಇಫ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವೆಲ್ಫೇರಿಸಮ್, ವೆಲ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್, ಸುಸೈಡ್ ಅಂತ ಆದರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ನನಗೆ. ಅಥವಾ ಈಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಬಂದವಲ್ಲ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ವಿಶ್ವಗುರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಟೋನ್ ಸೇಮ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಪ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಮೈ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ವಾಸ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್, ರೈಟ್, ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾರ್ಕಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಈ ಥರ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಇನ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಹೆಲ್ತಿ ವೇ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗಿವ್ ಎ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಫುಲಿ ಡಿಸಗ್ರಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಡೀತದೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ಬಿಲೀವ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ರೋಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ವಿಶ್ವಗುರು ಅಂತಂದು ತುಂಬ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಫುಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟುಬಿಟ್ಟು ದೆನ್ ನೀವು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಷಿಯೇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ಇದು. ಆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಷಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸು ಕುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಿನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು. ಲೈಕ್ ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಜಿತ್ ದೋಬಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಫಾರಿನ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗಳು ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ ವೇ ವಿ ಆರ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ಸ್ ವಿತೌಟ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಮೈಸಿಂಗ್ ಅವರ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್, ಸಾವರೆಂಟಿ. ಸೊ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಅದನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬ್ರಷ್ ಅಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅದನ್ನು. ಸೊ ಆ ಥರ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ, ವಿತೌಟ್ ಕಂಪೇರಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಇವನ್ ಇಫ್ ದ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ದಟ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್, ಆಸ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ ವಿತೌಟ್ ಮೆನ್ಷನಿಂಗ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಟ್ ಅಂತ. ಸಿ ಇವನ್ ವೆಂಕಿ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣನ್ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ದೇ ಓಪನ್ಲಿ ಟಾಕ್ಡ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಎಸ್ ಐಡ್ ಓಪನ್ಲಿ, ಲೈಕ್ ಇಫ್ he was to pursue something in India, he wouldn't have done what he had done or won the Nobel Prize ಅಂತಂದು, ರೈಟ್. ಎಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ, ಬಟ್ ದ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಚೇಂಜಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಇವಾಗ, ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ಗವರ್ನೆನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಲ್ಯಾಟ್ರಲ್ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ರೈಟ್. ಹೌ ದ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ನಾವು ಓನ್ಲಿ 33% ಇವತ್ತು ಹಿಂದೂನಲ್ಲಿದೆ IAS, ಜಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರೀಸ್, ಲೈಕ್ so there is a diversity now, and they are looking forward to hire specialist and all. So adunu I was thinking about, so you have more chance of scoring high marks. Last 3 years alli that trend is there. Post graduation ಮಾಡೋರಿಗೆ, ರೈಟ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋರಿಗೆ, ಇವನ್ ಮೆಡಿಕಲ್ ಸೂಪರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅವರಿಗೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಫೀಲ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋರಿಗೆ. ಸೊ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡೆಡ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಟು ದೇರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೇಷನ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ಲೈಕ್ ವೈ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅಂತಂದು ಯೂಶ್ವಲ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಕೊಡೋದ್ರ ಬದಲು, ಏನಾದರೂ ಕತೆ ಹೇಳಿ ಹಂಗೇನಾದ್ರ ಬದಲು, ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ನೀಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ the country is evolving, how the service is getting specialized, and how the challenges are local and need specific so responses. So ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಾಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ಈಗಿರೋ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಸಿ ದಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಯರ್ ಮೆಡಿಕಲ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಆಪ್ಷನಲ್ಸು ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈ ಥರ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಷ್ನಲ್ ಆಪ್ಷನಲ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ವೆಲ್ ಟು ಸಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಟು ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಇಯರ್ಸ್. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಈ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಇಯರ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ನ್ಯೂ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ UPSC ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಿ ಸಿ ಗ್ಲಿಮ್ಸಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್, ದ ವೇ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಡನ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂನ ಯೂಶ್ವಲ್ ವೇನಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಬೇಡ. ಬಿ ಕ್ಯಾಂಡಿಡ್, ಇನ್ನೂ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿ, ಇವನ್ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಜಿಯೋಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ರೀಕಾಲ್ ಸಮ್ ಲಿಟ್ರರಿ ಥಿಂಗ್, ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್, ರೈಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ರೆಡ್ ಬಯೋಗ್ರಫೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಪಲ್, ಆಫ್ ಲೀಡರ್ಸ್, ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಅದೇನಾದ್ರು ಬಂತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ತಗೋಬೇಕು. ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಥರ. ಸೊ ಆ ಇಂಟೆಲೆಕ್ಚುವಲ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ದೇ ಲವ್ ಎ ಲಾಟ್ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂನಲ್ಲಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಡಿಸ್ಪೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಡನ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಒನ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್, ಸೊ ಯು ಆರ್ ಲೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್, ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೇಷನ್ಸ್, ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಬಿ ಹೂ ಯು ಆರ್, ರೈಟ್. ಸರ್, ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಕಲ್ತಿರೋದು, ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಓದಿರೋದು, ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ನೋಡಿರೋದು, ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಮಾತಾಡಿರೋದು, ಜಸ್ಟ್